What if the greatest monument on earth was born from a single moment of unbearable loss? Within a dust-choked fortress rising from the scorching, airless plateau of the Deccan in central India, a military commander sat absorbed in a game of chess with his strikingly beautiful, jewel-adorned, and heavily pregnant wife. The year was 1631, 1040 according to the Muslim calendar, and both were followers of Islam. Then, without warning, as the story is most often told, a sudden and violent pain seized the woman's abdomen. Physicians were urgently summoned, yet despite their efforts, the 38-year-old mother's 14th pregnancy began to spiral dangerously out of control. Weakened by severe loss of blood, she spoke in faint whispers to her grief-stricken husband, recalling the eternity of their love and pleading with him never to take another wife. Her final wish was profound: that he build for her a mausoleum that would mirror paradise on earth, just as it had appeared to her in her dreams. Official court chroniclers recorded that only a few minutes after giving birth to a daughter, she died. When she released that final solitary pearl, she emptied her body like an oyster. It is said that for 2 years her husband, the Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, withdrew from the world, rejecting all earthly pleasures and exchanging glittering jewels and luxurious garments for the austere simplicity of pure white mourning attire. In the words of one of his court poets, his eyes wept pearl drops of sadness. His hair turned white in a single night. He devoted all his strength and purpose to fulfilling the vision of his wife, Taj Mahal, chosen one of the palace, creating a tomb that was not merely a representation of heaven on. Not merely an earthly structure, it stands as a powerful symbol of sensual beauty and opulent luxury, even in death. Constructed along a sweeping bend of the river Jumna, in the Mughal capital of Agra in northern India, it is known across the world as the Taj Mahal, the most renowned memorial to love ever created. The identity of the Taj Mahal's architect remains uncertain, yet this much debated and mysterious figure conceived a design defined by flawless symmetry and extraordinary elegance. It represents a remarkable fusion of Islamic and Hindu architectural traditions, realized through the use of rose-hued sandstone and radiant milk-white marble. Despite its immense scale, the great central dome rising more than 240 feet and bearing a weight of nearly 12,000 tons upon its supports, the Taj Mahal appears to float with an almost weightless grace above its surrounding courtyards, mirror-like water channels, and vibrant green gardens. Its fragile, almost mythical beauty continues to captivate and mesmerize even the most skeptical observer. From the very moment of its completion, the Taj Mahal was recognized by contemporaries as a wonder of its age. A 17th-century French traveler boldly claimed that this extraordinary structure deserved far more to be counted among the wonders of the world than even the pyramids of Egypt. A Mughal scholar, overcome by its radiance, wrote that, "The eye of the sun fills with tears upon gazing at it, and its shadow falls upon the earth like gentle moonlight." As generations passed, many struggled to articulate the emotions stirred by the Taj's haunting, almost otherworldly beauty. To the Nobel Prize-winning poet Rabindranath Tagore, it was a teardrop upon the cheek of time. To Rudyard Kipling, it became the ivory gateway through which all dreams pass, the embodiment of purity, sanctity, and even sorrow. The artist and poet Edward Lear went even further, declaring that any attempt to describe such a place was futile. That words themselves were simply inadequate. He famously suggested that humanity could be divided into just two kinds of people: those who had witnessed the Taj Mahal, and those who had not. When Eleanor Roosevelt visited the monument at dusk, she later wrote of standing breathless, unable to speak in the presence of such overwhelming beauty, calling it a beauty that enters the soul. Another voice, that of a British officer's wife in the early 19th century, perhaps captured its emotional depth most intimately. Writing to her husband, she confessed that she could not explain what she thought of the structure, because she did not know how to critique such magnificence. But she could express what she felt. And what she felt was so profound, that she wrote she would gladly give her life to experience such beauty again. By the close of the 18th century, the British artist Thomas Daniel, renowned for creating some of the earliest detailed paintings and plans of the Taj Mahal, described it as a spectacle of the highest order, visited by people of every rank, from every corner of the world. Over the centuries, its fame has only grown. Today, the Taj Mahal stands as a global icon, recognized alongside landmarks such as the Statue of Liberty, the Eiffel Tower, the Leaning Tower of Pisa, and the Great Wall of China. Despite having been built under a ruling dynasty of foreign origin, it has become a powerful symbol of India itself. Embraced by tourism, culture, and industry, both nationally and across the world. More than that, it has evolved into something far greater. A universal symbol of enduring love. By the time Princess Diana visited India in February of 1992, the Taj Mahal was no longer just a monument of the past. It had become a living legend. Photographed within its serene gardens by Thomas and William Daniel, the Taj Mahal of Agra stands not merely as architecture, but as an enduring vision captured in time. When Princess Diana visited India in February of 1992, accompanied by her then-husband, Prince Charles, the emotional force of the Taj Mahal's image revealed itself in an entirely new way. At one moment, she chose to experience it alone, seated on a simple white marble bench, before a monument born of imperial love. She appeared solitary, contemplative, almost sorrowful. That single image, of a lone figure framed against a timeless symbol of devotion, spoke more powerfully than any words ever could. The Taj Mahal is not only an expression of profound love, but also a declaration of authority, confidence, and imperial grandeur. It was commissioned by an emperor whose dominion stretched vast and far-reaching, westward beyond the Indus into what is now Afghanistan and Pakistan, eastward toward Bengal, and southward across the expansive Deccan Plateau of central India. Shah Jahan did not inherit a modest kingdom. His ancestors, the four emperors before him, had built an empire of immense scale and extraordinary wealth, securing their lands through calculated ambition and relentless expansion. They were descendants of two of history's most formidable conquerors, Genghis Khan and Timur. Driven from their ancestral homelands on the Central Asian plains, beyond the towering Hindu Kush mountains, they were forced outward by fierce rivalries among regional powers and tribal rulers. But displacement did not weaken them. It transformed them. By the early 16th century, under the leadership of Babur, the first Mughal emperor, they had begun to carve out a new destiny in the Indian subcontinent. One that would eventually give rise to one of the most magnificent empires the world had ever seen. They had begun their advance through the Khyber Pass, pressing downward into Hindustan, into the vast expanse of northern India. Yet their early grip on these newly claimed territories was far from secure. Local rulers resisted fiercely, pushing them back, again and again. It was not until the reign of Babur's grandson, Akbar, the grandfather of Shah Jahan, between 1556 and 1605, that Mughal authority in India finally achieved lasting stability. With stability came prosperity, and with prosperity came the freedom to pursue beauty. The Mughals, nostalgic for the cooler climates they had once called home, developed a deep and enduring passion for refined landscapes, gardens cooled by flowing water, adorned with fountains and streams, and framed by open pavilions designed for rest and reflection. These gardens would become the very blueprint for the grounds of the Taj Mahal, and many of them endure even today. At the same time, the emperors revealed themselves as ambitious builders. Across their expanding empire, they raised fortresses and palaces, while within their pleasure gardens, they constructed exquisite mausoleums of their own. They carried with them a long-standing tradition of tomb building, one that gradually evolved into a distinctive fusion of Islamic artistry and indigenous Indian craftsmanship. India's immense wealth, accumulated in staggering quantities within Mughal imperial treasuries, made possible monuments of breathtaking scale and refinement. Shah Jahan, in particular, possessed the means to transform vision into reality. He could quite literally embed jewels into white marble, crafting luminous floral designs that shimmered like life itself, an earthly reflection of the paradise where Mumtaz awaited her grieving husband. The Taj Mahal became the ultimate artistic achievement of the Mughal Empire. Imitated across generations, yet never truly surpassed. But such magnificence came at a cost. A profound cost, in every sense. For Shah Jahan, the creation of this heaven on earth demanded immense physical effort and staggering financial sacrifice. A contemporary English traveler observed with astonishment, "The construction continues with excessive labor and expense. Gold and silver are treated as common metals, and even marble is regarded as ordinary stone." The burden of building the Taj Mahal, combined with the devastating grief following Mumtaz Mahal's death, gradually drained Shah Jahan's vast treasuries and diverted his attention from the governance of his empire. At the same time, unrest quietly grew within the imperial family. In a court now shadowed by loss, tension took root among his sons. That tension would one day erupt, planting the seeds of Shah Jahan's own downfall, and in doing so, it would begin to push what was once the most powerful empire in the world toward an age of religious rigidity and slow decline. Even while Shah Jahan still lived, he witnessed a bitter struggle unfold. 4 of his sons, born to him in Mumtaz Mahal, turned against one another, each vying for the throne. From that brutal contest, one emerged victorious: Aurangzeb, a ruler of strict orthodoxy and ruthless resolve. To secure his power, he eliminated his rivals, killing 2 of his own brothers, and turning the tide of the Mughal Empire toward a far darker chapter. As for Shah Jahan himself, his final years unfolded not in glory, but in captivity. Confined within the imposing fort at Agra, he lived out his remaining days as a prisoner. From within those walls, it is said he would gaze endlessly across the waters of the Jumna, his eyes fixed upon the Taj Mahal, the very monument he had built for love, now a distant reminder of everything he had lost. Burdened by regret, he reproached his own son for the fractures spreading across the empire, and mourned the future that might have been, had Mumtaz Mahal, the lady of the Taj, lived on. The 73 years of Shah Jahan's life, from 1592 to 1666, marked not only a defining chapter in Mughal history, but also a time of sweeping transformation across the wider world. A world whose shifting tides would inevitably shape the destiny of his empire. In the Middle East, the Ottoman Turks were striving to rebuild their strength. Recovering from their devastating naval defeat at Lepanto by the combined Spanish and Venetian fleets. Under Sultan Mehmed III, who, in 1595, secured his rule through a brutal act of power, executing 27 of his own brothers and half-brothers. The Ottomans set a precedent of ruthless succession, one that would later echo in the Mughal court itself. By the time Shah Jahan's reign came to its close, the Ottomans had reclaimed much of the Balkans, and in 1639, they wrested control from Persia over territories that now form modern Iraq, establishing a fixed boundary that would redefine regional power. From that point forward, Persia would be compelled to turn its ambitions eastward, in search of further expansion. For the Mughals, Persia had long been both ally and adversary. In earlier times, Persian rulers had offered crucial support during moments of Mughal vulnerability. Yet in more recent years, under the Safavid dynasty, they had provided refuge to rebels, and contested the ever-shifting northwestern frontiers of the Mughal Empire. Despite their nomadic origins in Central Asia, the Mughals increasingly looked toward Persia not as a rival, but as a source of cultural inspiration. Beginning with Emperor Akbar, Persian became the official language of the Mughal court. Members of the imperial family, along with nobles and scholars, mastered the art of Persian poetry and prose, embedding its elegance deeply within the fabric of Mughal identity. Persia also served as a wellspring of talent. Many of the empire's most distinguished courtiers, generals, and artists were either born in Persia or descended from Persian lineage. Among them was Amanat Khan, a master calligrapher from Shiraz, the only man Shah Jahan permitted to inscribe his name upon the Taj Mahal itself. And among those of Persian heritage was Mumtaz Mahal. Her grandfather had arrived at the Mughal court from Persia as a man of no wealth. Yet through ability and ambition, he rose to become the chief minister to Shah Jahan's father, Emperor Jahangir. Mumtaz Mahal and her family, like most Persians of their time, followed the Shia tradition of Islam, while the Mughal rulers adhered to Sunni beliefs. Yet the Mughal court stood apart in one remarkable way: it embraced a level of religious tolerance that was rare in the 17th century. Unlike Europe, where faith often divided nations, the Mughal emperors formed alliances across religious boundaries, marrying not only within the Shia sect but also into Hindu royal families. These women were not forced to abandon their beliefs, each continued to practice her own faith. Even Shah Jahan himself was born into a lineage that reflected this diversity, with both a Hindu mother and a Hindu paternal grandmother. In Europe, however, religion was not a bridge, but a fault line. Political rivalries were deeply entangled with faith, and during the early 17th century, as Shah Jahan strengthened his rule and married Mumtaz Mahal, Northern Europe was being consumed by the devastating 30 Years' War. This brutal conflict was driven as much by the bitter struggle between Catholics and Protestants, fueled by the Inquisition, as it was by territorial ambition. The lifetime of Shah Jahan also coincided with a period of dramatic transformation across Europe. Trade expanded rapidly, and the balance of power among European nations began to shift. The aftermath of the 30 Years' War would leave Germany fractured for nearly 2 centuries, until the eventual rise of the Prussian Empire. Meanwhile, Catholic France ascended to unprecedented heights under the rule of Louis XIV, whose centralized and absolute monarchy bore striking similarities to the Mughal court. Like the emperors of India, he ruled under the belief in the divine right of kings. England, however, took a radically different path. Rejecting absolute monarchy, the English Parliament challenged royal authority. In 1649, following a violent civil war, King Charles I was tried and executed, an extraordinary act that shocked Europe. In his place rose a Puritan republic led by Oliver Cromwell. Yet this experiment was short-lived. By 1660, the monarchy was restored, though now bound by parliamentary power, a transformation that would ultimately lay the foundation for modern democracy. Across the Atlantic Ocean, the English were laying the groundwork for a new world. In 1607, the same year Shah Jahan was betrothed to Mumtaz Mahal, they established their first permanent settlement at Jamestown, Virginia. Decades later, in 1664, just 2 years before Shah Jahan's death, the English seized the Dutch settlement of New Amsterdam, renaming it New York. The Dutch, undeterred, turned their focus eastward, building a vast and profitable spice trade empire through the Dutch East India Company, which had already established its headquarters in Batavia, present-day Jakarta, in 1619. Spain, meanwhile, had long dominated much of South and Central America, extracting immense wealth from its colonies. Among its most prized sources of riches were the silver mines of Potosi, located high in the Andes of present-day Bolivia, rising some 15,381 feet above sea level. Yet by the end of Shah Jahan's life, Spanish supremacy was already in decline. Like the Mughal Empire itself, Spain had failed to create a sustainable trading system independent of rigid royal control and unchecked greed. To construct a system of commerce free from the constraints of royal bureaucracy and the corrosive pull of greed. In 1655, the English Republic seized Jamaica from Spain, transforming it into a strategic base. From there, English privateers, hailed as patriots by some and condemned as pirates by others, launched relentless raids upon Spanish treasure fleets, siphoning immense wealth from a declining empire. More subtly, and perhaps more effectively, English merchants began forging alliances with Spanish traders themselves, quietly bypassing the rigid boundaries of imperial trade laws. This emerging model of free trade did not remain confined to the Atlantic. It spread outward across the globe. Along the coasts of Africa, English traders negotiated with local rulers, acquiring enslaved Africans who were transported to Virginia as early as 1619. In the East Indies, they steadily intruded upon the tightly controlled monopolies of both Spain and the Dutch. To the literary giants of England, figures like Shakespeare and Christopher Marlowe, India was not merely a distant land, but a symbol of dazzling wealth, a realm synonymous with precious gems and exotic spices. This vision took concrete form in 1600 with the founding of the English East India Company. Soon, its ships began trading along India's western shores, where the Portuguese had already established their presence decades earlier, in 1510. By 1661, the tides of history had begun to shift. Shah Jahan, once the most powerful ruler in the East, was now confined within the walls of Agra Fort, imprisoned by his own son. In that same year, England's King Charles II, recently restored to the throne, received the port city of Bombay, modern-day Mumbai, as part of the dowry of his Portuguese bride, Catherine of Braganza. Yet despite these gains, the English remained little more than spectators in the grand theater of the Mughal court. A striking miniature painting from the era captures this imbalance of power with quiet clarity. It portrays Emperor Jahangir seated as the ruler of the world, radiant and commanding, while England's King James I appears below him, diminished, subordinate, and faintly displeased, even though he is adorned with nearly as many jewels as the emperor himself. It is an image that foreshadows a dramatic reversal yet to come, one in which British influence would rise as Mughal authority gradually waned. Nor were the English and Portuguese alone in their fascination with Mughal India. The Dutch, Italians, and French also made their way eastward, each driven by different ambitions. Many came as merchants, seeking fortune through trade. Others arrived as Catholic missionaries, intent on saving souls. Some were simply curious travelers, drawn by tales of the legendary, great Mughal, and the splendor of his empire. Still others were adventurers, soldiers of fortune or fugitives escaping European law, offering their military expertise, particularly in the art of gunnery, to the Mughal rulers in exchange for wealth and protection. Whatever their purpose, these visitors carried their experiences back to Europe, where they penned vivid accounts of the Mughal world. Their writings fed a growing fascination with India's riches, its lands, its people, and above all, its extraordinary treasures, glittering jewels, masterful works of art, and architectural wonders of breathtaking scale. Shah Jahan entered the world at the very moment one architectural age reached its zenith, just as St. Peter's Basilica in Rome stood completed in all its grandeur. He departed it as another was about to begin, when Christopher Wren prepared to raise his masterpiece, the first great Protestant cathedral, St. Paul's in London. Measured against these monumental achievements of the West, the Taj Mahal reveals a scale both astonishing and deceptive. Its vast walled precinct could contain the entirety of St. Peter's Basilica, even embracing the sweeping piazza later envisioned by Bernini during the emperor's final years. And though St. Paul's would ultimately soar to a height of 365 feet, standing 125 feet taller than the Taj, its physical footprint remained far more modest. To the west, in Persia, another vision of splendor had already taken shape. In the southern city of Isfahan, Shah Abbas commissioned the magnificent Shah Mosque between 1611 and 1630. This structure shared profound architectural kinship with the Taj Mahal, a majestic, swelling dome formed by a double shell, concealing a vast hollow core designed to reduce weight, and grand rectangular iwans, deeply recessed arches, dominating its facades. Yet visually, the two worlds diverged. The Shah Mosque shimmered in vibrant hues of blue, soft yellow, and green tilework, radiating intricate patterns and exuberance. In contrast, The Taj Mahal embodied a luminous calm, its white marble glowing with a soft, almost ethereal radiance. In this contrast lay the story of evolution. Mughal architecture, though rooted in Persian tradition, had matured into something distinct, even as Persian artisans continued to shape its design and ornamentation. At the same time, far beyond India, Europe was experiencing its own artistic awakening. Masters such as Caravaggio, Velázquez, and Rubens defined the age. Yet among them stood an unexpected figure deeply connected to the Mughal world, Rembrandt. Fascinated by the artistry of the East, he collected Mughal drawings and paintings, studying them closely and producing sketches inspired by their detail and refinement, particularly the elaborate jewelry they depicted. This exchange was not one-sided. The paintings Rembrandt admired had themselves been influenced by European works brought to the Mughal court by travelers during the reign of Jahangir, Shah Jahan's father. What emerged was a remarkable cycle of inspiration, a global dialogue in art, where ideas moved fluidly across continents, reshaping creative traditions on both sides. Yet such brilliance also sparked rivalry. European historians, keenly aware of the Taj Mahal's magnificence, would later argue that its intricate inlays of semi-precious stones, and perhaps even its very design, owed something to European influence, or had been executed by European hands. These claims, often driven more by pride than evidence, became part of an enduring debate over the monument's origins. That debate has not faded with time. Even today, some voices within India assert that the Taj Mahal should be seen not as a Mughal creation, but as an entirely Hindu achievement, challenging the widely accepted view of it as a sublime fusion of Islamic artistry and indigenous tradition. For millennia before these rivalries took shape, humanity measured architectural greatness differently. For nearly 4,400 years, until the 19th century, the Great Pyramid of Cheops at Giza, rising more than 450 feet into the sky, stood as the tallest structure ever built, a silent testament to the enduring human desire to reach beyond the limits of Earth. Some argue that the Taj Mahal reflects a confluence of influences, while others contend it stands as an entirely Islamic creation, one that, in their view, should fall under the authority of Sharia law. And yet, beyond these debates, the story of the Taj, and the love that inspired it, resonates far beyond borders, cultures, and creeds. Its rhythm echoes the tragic grandeur of ancient Greek drama, while its emotional depth rivals the sweeping intensity of grand opera. This is a narrative shaped by immense passion, unfolding within a world governed by commanding patriarchs, rival sons, and formidable women whose influence often operated from behind the veiled seclusion of the imperial harem. The destiny of an empire of 100 million souls rested precariously on the fragile dynamics of a single ruling family, where sons conspired to overthrow their fathers, brothers turned violently against one another, and queens and would-be queens maneuvered through webs of intrigue and ambition. Yet no amount of opulence, no display of imperial authority, nor the allure of an exotic setting can conceal the profoundly human emotions that gave rise to the Taj Mahal. Beneath its marble perfection lies something far more intimate. At its core, the Taj Mahal poses questions that transcend time and civilization itself. Questions about the essence of love, the weight of grief, and the meaning of beauty. It asks whether such intangible, deeply human experiences can ever be captured in a form that is both physical and eternal. A story of love, etched in flawless white marble. The Taj Mahal, an eternal whisper of beauty, so profound, it seems to still the passage of time itself. But behind every crown, lies a tale written in blood. Rebellion, war for the throne, and the silent turning of fate. Far away, in the golden yet unforgiving mountains of Fergana, a 12-year-old boy stands on the edge of destiny. This story does not end here. This is only the beginning.